Hello again. And today I have three more horror books that I want to cover. So let's just get into it. So the three books we're going to cover here are two Bentley Little books. One is called The Haunted. The other one is called The Influence. And then I actually am catching up on my Grady Hendrix by reading the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Alrighty, so I'm back. So let's talk about The Influence first from Bentley Little. Let me read what this is about here. When Ross Lowry moves into his cousin's guest house in a small community of Magdalena, Arizona, he expects nothing more than a breathing room and a brief respite from its economic woes. But something is not right in the desert. After a raucous party on New Year's Eve, the luck of the attendees undergoes an immediate U-turn. The rich and successful suddenly find themselves facing catastrophic failure, while the less off are unexpectedly flush with good fortune. This is only the beginning. Soon the citizens of Magdalena are experiencing unnatural desires. Next, their children begin to disappear and freakish creatures emerge from the surrounding wilderness. The community is unraveling at a frightening pace, but these are merely the early warning signs of a showdown with a powerful force of darkness that could obliterate the world forever, and only Ross Lowry sees the danger that lurks ahead. Okay, so what did I think of this one? I am not... I don't hate this one. You know, I don't think it's a bad story, but I am definitely not in love with this one. I think this is kind of... How do I even describe it? It's kind of... kind of average. For me, anyway. It's just not something that I am that crazy about. So I'm going to say that I did like it. In a way, this is the story of Ross Lowry, moving into this, rural area and trying to settle down and learn some stuff and do some interesting things here. It's good. I like the setup. I like the character. I like some of the horror elements in it. It's more of kind of an alien story, I feel like. Even somewhat in the way of like a Slither type of thing, but not, because it has a little bit of that and a little bit of just, influence from this creature. I'm not going to really get into it too much. But in general, as a Bentley Little book, I didn't find it as interesting as some of the other books I've read. This is probably like the fifth Bentley Little book I've read. And for me, at purpose, it was just basically an average Bentley Little. It didn't have the strong family connections that his other stories have. It doesn't have the strong, overarching, huge history that some of his other stories have had. So for me, it falls flat in a couple of little spots. But again, it's not a bad story. If you're a Bentley Little fan, I definitely would recommend it. I don't see anything wrong with the story. Just for me, it didn't catch my interest. And I'm not going to really talk too much about it because it wasn't something that I was that interested in. So on that note, let me talk about the next Bentley Little book that I read, The Haunted, which is a little bit closer to the kind of Bentley Little that I enjoy. So let me actually read a little bit again what he's talking about here. Julian and Claire Perry and their two children, Megan and James, have made the move to a bigger, nicer home in their city's historic district. But something isn't right. The neighbors seem reluctant to visit Claire. Claire can't shake the feeling that someone is watching her. Megan receives increasingly menacing and obscene text, and James is having terrible dreams. No wonder, considering what he sees in the corner of the basement, staring at him, and shuffling closer ever so slowly. Pity no one warned the family about the house. Now it's too late because the darkness at the bottom of the stairs is rising. Now here we go with a Bentley Little story that I did like more. This would I definitely would give this a 4-star at least. The family element is there because of this family that moves into this haunted house. It's not even a haunted house. It's actually the haunted land. The history of the haunting, of the problem with this land, which they actually never get into why it's like this. They kind of hint that it might have been exacerbated by certain incidents, but as far as the actual origin of how it became originally bad land, it's kind of not really talked about too much. They go all the way back to like the founding of America, and the Mexican workers at this land, and basically actually even farther than that, as far as like the church actually trying to build a church on this one plot of land that the locals say is bad land, and how it gets influenced, and how this land kind of manipulates the people around it, and how it how it haunts them, and how it's really scary, as far as like it's really creepy, like Bentley Little. And again, I just really enjoyed this one. It felt like exactly the kind of Bentley Little that I like. It had the long, drawn-out story. The characters, especially Julian as the father. There's a story about how the father and mother actually lost a child earlier, and it does talk about sacrifice and loss, and it's just I can't really describe it too much. I don't really want to go into these stories too well, but it's just a really good story. And again, I think it's one of the Bentley Littles that you should definitely check out. So that is The Haunted. And the last book I read on this 3-book series is the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I like Grady Hendrix. I pretty much have read everything that Grady Hendrix has done. So, except for this one, this is obviously new for now, because he's going to come out with a new hardcover book, I think next month, that's coming out. So this is a Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. So again, let me read what this says here. Patricia Campbell's life has never felt smaller. Her husband is a workaholic. Her teenage kids have their own lives. Her senile mother-in-law needs constant care, and she's always a step behind on her endless to-do list. The only thing keeping her sane is her book club, a close-knit group of Charleston women united by their love of true crime. And at these meetings, they're likely to talk about the Manson family as they are about their own families. One evening after book club, Patricia is viciously attacked by an elderly neighbor, bringing the neighbor's handsome nephew, James Harris, into her life. James is a well-traveled and well-read, and he makes Patricia feel things she hasn't felt in years. But when children on the other side of town go missing, their deaths written off by local police, Patricia has reason to believe James Harris is more of a Bundy than a Brad Pitt. The real problem: James is a monster of a different kind, and Patricia has already invited him in. Little by little, James will insinuate himself into Patricia's life, trying to make everything she took for granted, including the book club, but she won't surrender without a fight, in the blood-soaked tale of a neighborly kindness gone wrong. Okay, this was a tough book for me to actually figure out where I fit in, but I like it. It's definitely not like just an average 3-star book. I don't know if I would want to, classify it as like a top book for me. I mean, I've read the other Grady Hendrix books that I've read. I've kind of enjoyed a little bit more than this one. So, I like it. It's definitely above average. I like the characterizations. I felt like the vampire is unique, but not, I would say not as menacing. Just a little bit more of a kind of a lonely, pathetic type of character in a way. That's just how I felt as far as this vampire. There's different rules with this thing that's technically a vampire, but not a vampire. Some of the liberties I did like, and some of them I didn't. I don't want to get into it too much, but as far as an actual vampire, James was definitely menacing, and and charming to some people, and he manipulated people's greed which I thought was really interesting. He also played around with racism in this book. That it definitely talks about racism in this book, which is again an interesting dynamic. Deals with the parents. I remember reading something about Grady Hendrix saying how this was something he wanted to write to go from the parents' perspective, as opposed to like My Best Friend's Exorcism, where the parents were not well off. In this book, basically, this is kind of almost like the men are kind of stupid in this story. The men are not helpful at all. But again, it's about the Southern Book Club ladies group, so I understand why that's in there too. But again, it's something that I liked, and I definitely would, if you're a fan of Grady Hendrix, if you're a fan of vampire fiction, I would say to read it. But again, it's not one of my favorite Grady Hendrix. I would definitely go to We Sell Souls or go to My Best Friend's Exorcism before I would tell you to pick up this one. This is definitely more I'd say more mass market, I guess, friendly. I think in a way, which I don't know if it's bad or good. But again, it's something I like. I hate to say, I don't want to nitpick it too much. It's something that I like, but it's also something I feel like is a little off at times as well. And that's basically it. So I'm going to say again, thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon. Bye.